Welcome. In this video, we watch 1. How satellite service works and how everyone was deceived. 2. How air internet service works on airplanes. 3. Gravity fails to work on a ball. 4. The impossibility of a Qibla on a spherical Earth. 5. Chilean eclipse on 3 July 2019 is strong evidence that the eclipse is not caused by the moon. 6. How a permanent day is formed with a permanent sun in the south and north. 7. Proof that the moon is not spherical and that it is a horizontal spot moving in the sky. 8. A very simple method that explains to you the mechanism of reflection. 9. How night and day move accurately throughout the year. 10. How eclipses and lunar eclipses on a flat Earth. 11. The mechanism of the southern stars and proof that they cannot be on a spherical Earth. Very important note. Reply to the telescope allegation. Of course, many of you will mention the telescope and say, we can overcome the distance using the telescope. But the truth is completely different. First, you must know some information about the telescope. In order to use the telescope, it must be well fixed on a fixed object. If you put the telescope on a moving object, you will not be able to observe through it at all. If the telescope is fixed on a flying plane, it cannot be used. If the telescope is fixed on a moving car, it cannot be observed through it. If the telescope shakes, the image disappears. This is the biggest evidence that the Earth is fixed and does not move, because if it were moving, the telescope would not work. Secondly, you think that the telescope can see millions of light years away because you believe that what is in the sky is millions of light years away from you. To know the truth, you must know the telescope's real distance on Earth. We have all seen the Burj Khalifa in Dubai photographed with a telescope from a distance of 100 kilometers. The tower appeared from this distance during the day and almost disappeared. So, the telescope's range is not as you think, zrania, but rather very limited, and helps you bring distant objects closer to see them with greater accuracy. We understand from this that the transparency of air is not absolute, and that the greater the distance, the less transparency until it becomes completely non-existent. Before we begin, you should know how far you can see on this map. You will notice that I have placed small dots close together. These dots indicate how far you can see, and beyond this small distance, you cannot see anything. Consider this dot to be a half sphere fixed above your head that moves with you while you are on the ground. You cannot in any way see what is beyond this sphere or what is outside its borders. To make you believe this, I will give you a very simple example. There is intense lightning at night in some cities, but you cannot see it from other nearby cities. From here, we understand that everything you see in the sky is only in this point or hemisphere designated for you, and part of the sky is reflected on it, and everything in the sky has no effect on the Earth except the sun. The sun is the only one that has a clear effect on life in all its forms, because of the heat that it emits, and we cannot say that it is reflected on these points. After studying and thinking, many things became clear to me, and I want to explain them to you. First, everyone thinks that day is caused by sunlight, and that night is caused by shadow, and that twilight is caused by the sun. The matter is completely different. Day is an independent substance that revolves in the universe and leads to the appearance of daylight on Earth. Day has different properties than night, and one of its properties is that it is energy, and everyone knows that as we can get energy from daylight, twilight is stable on the entire day, but we only see it when the sun's focus is weak. When the day exceeds a certain limit, it interacts with a certain length of twilight and forms a focus for the sun inside each hemisphere or point on the map. Because the day revolves with the night, its effect on each point changes. The more it increases, the stronger the focus becomes, and its temperature rises and rises in its place. The day revolves, and at the same time, rises and falls. When the day rises higher, the area on the ground increases and covers a larger area. In this case, it is winter, and because it rose and the area exposed to light on the ground increased, the power of the day is less, and accordingly, the heat of the sun is less, and the height of the sun is less. And the opposite is when it decreases. As for the night, it is a negative energy, completely opposite to the day. The day reveals the sun, and the night covers it. As for the night, it is a negative energy, completely opposite to the day. The day reveals the sun, and the night covers it. The night covers the sun only because it is the only one that has a focus of day and twilight. This explains how the night is in some places close to the sun at a time when the sun appears at greater distances. If you apply these things to the model of Walter Bislin's, the model is ideal, but it lacks some additions. First, the eclipse and the lunar eclipse, according to what I mentioned, the day reveals the sun, and the night covers it. There are small and separate parts of the night that revolve in the sky, and when they are at a low level and when they pass in front of the reflected focus, they extinguish it, and the eclipse occurs, and darkness is reflected back to us until it passes, and the matter returns to its previous state. As for the eclipse, because night does not cover the moon, it only passes under it and casts its shadow on it, and the eclipse occurs until it passes. Secondly, add the stars of the southern stars, and we will get to know them with an ideal model of them. Here, I will review all the types of eclipses that you can see, annular eclipses of all types. It depends on the direction of the night's movement and its size. As you can see, and as we said before, the night covers the sun only. Note the types and compare what happens in reality. Here you see another form. Do not forget that when a small part of the center of the sun appears, there is no explanation for it in the spherical theory. Here you see another form. Notice that I've reversed the direction of the eclipse so that it matches what you see from Earth. Here you see another form. Here you see another form. As for the lunar eclipse, there is a slight difference. It is that the night does not cover the moon, but rather it passes under the moon and casts a shadow on the reflected focus of the moon. You can see different colors as a result of the reflection of the stars' lights on the night. We are done with the eclipse and will start to break down gravity and respond to their claim that the Earth is oval in shape. Everyone knows that the waters of the seas and rivers stick to the Earth due to gravity and that they move and head towards the closest point to the center of the Earth on the circumference of the globe. We will take a practical look at what is said and see if this talk is true or if it is just unstudied talk that everyone believed without research and investigation. There are those who say and justify certain phenomena by saying that the Earth is oval in shape. Let us see what happens if it is oval in shape. In this case, the radii will be unequal, and the result is that the water will flow towards the point closest to the center of the Earth. The north and south will be empty of any water, and this did not happen. We will leave the oval shape and go back to the spherical shape because it will cause endless problems. Who is this idiot who said that the Earth is oval? It is spherical. But what if there was a completely flat area on the ground, such as the salt desert in Bolivia, for example? According to the fact that water tends to the closest point to the center of the ball, the center of this flat area will be. It is the closest point to the center of the ball. This means that if there is any water on a flat area, it will tend to its center. To imagine it well, like on an orange, cut a part of the orange so that it is completely flat. You will find that the closest point to the center of the orange is the center of the flat part. This means that any water on any flat part must collect in its center. Does this happen? Even in the salt desert, rainwater covers the entire area and does not collect in the center of the flat area. Damn gravity. Remember that the area of the salt desert in Bolivia is completely flat and is 10,582 square kilometers. Even without it, the center of any flat body must be a point of accumulation of water. With an orange, it is ridiculous. We will leave gravity then. It was said that I know the model Walter Bislan's. I was busy making a model for the movement of night and day, and I actually made a 3D model based on the maps of night and day available on the internet because they are correct and cannot be manipulated relatively because each person enters them and sees his place, if it is day or night. And indeed, I implemented the equinoxes with an identical model, and then my dear friend, Sister Lena Biss, sent me the complete. This is the dish used. The satellite wave is reflected on it and gathers on the LNB, as you can see in the picture. We must understand a very important piece of information, that the satellite rays are reflected and not, as they say, that they are not reflected. And if they are not reflected, they cannot be received. Secondly, if there is a barrier in front of the dish, you cannot receive the wave because it is reflected on the barrier, and it will not reach the dish, the stratosphere layer above the Earth, by 50 kilometers, if there is a satellite at an altitude of 35,000 kilometers. This means that the wave reaches this layer and bounces back to the satellite. The wave will not reach the ground. The subject, in brief, is that points were arranged in the stratosphere, as in the picture, and each point was called a satellite with a certain degree. The studio transmits through its own dish. The wave reaches the stratosphere and bounces back to the ground, in all directions. The broadcast piece in the studio is not compatible with the pieces installed on our floors in homes. There is only one piece compatible with it, with a party whose wave is received and rebroadcast with a piece compatible with the dishes we have and we can receive from it. In the drawing, I explained that the beam coming out of the studio's broadcast is red because it cannot be received on our dishes and is rebroadcast with the other piece that is compatible with our dishes in green. In-flight internet service on airplanes. This image shows the in-flight internet service on airplanes from the website of the telecommunications company STC. By placing a Wi-Fi signal receiver at the bottom of the plane and receiving from communication towers along the way. The matter is clear and does not need words. Southern stars. This image is used by astronomers to prove that the Earth is spherical and cannot be flat. You will notice that they drew the shapes of the southern stars that appear in some cities, as is the order from left to right. Santiago, Johannesburg, Jakarta, Sydney, Papeete. And each group of stars is a specific symbol whose direction differs. I took a picture of the Sydney stars and put it on the flat Earth map. And I put the picture of Sydney on Sydney, and I made the picture rotate around the map so that every degree it rotates around. The axis rotates with it a degree around itself. You will notice a complete match for the shapes of the southern stars from one picture. And note that in order for the correct shapes to be formed, the stars must rotate twice. And in the spherical theory, the stars are fixed because they are millions of light years away, and the movement is only apparent as a result of the Earth's rotation. Watch the video and see when the stars are placed on the ball. They cannot match. Now I stopped at Johannesburg and put the picture that astronomers drew of the shape of the stars in Johannesburg at the top. It matches the picture of the stars that rotate. Santiago, perfect match. Papeete, perfect match. Here we watch the match on a rotating ball, and let's not forget that the stars in the spherical theory are fixed and move with an apparent movement as a result of the rotation of the Earth. And this is according to what they claim, that it is millions of light years away from us. So I did everything they said and put the picture of the stars that appear in Sydney at the beginning in Sydney and waited to see the apparent movement of the stars. And I found that all the cities of the south will see the stars in the same way that they appear in Sydney. It is a sad thing. I tried to do justice to the ball so that it would win. But the flat Earth won the gold cup deservedly. I know that this video is shocking to those who believe in the spherical theory, and they may stop thinking and start insulting me. This is normal for someone who has lived his entire life believing in a theory and does not doubt it for a single moment. Of course, it will be a shock, and the senses will work to defend without thinking. But I ask you to take your time and watch the video a second and third time and think about the matter and try to defend in scientific ways. If you fail, then the matter is up to you. Either you believe logical words that you cannot deny with a strong argument, or you stay as you are. Reflection. A simple experiment you can do is to fix a light source on a glass plate. While you are moving and the light source is fixed, you will find the reflected focus moving with you wherever you move. This is what happens with the moon and stars. This is a map of night and day, from the location of night and day, in a 24-hour sun day in the south. You will notice that they are using a flat map and not a ball, because the movement cannot be applied to a ball. You will also notice that the sun is in the middle of the map, so that it is in the north of New Zealand and North America. They have a sun. How can the sun be above and below the ball at the same time? As you can see, the sun cannot be seen in the north and south at the same time on a globe. Here, I will explain to you more. When you are in Antarctica who sees the sun, you will find that it is impossible to see North America, New Zealand, France, and Britain, as they are deceiving you in imaginary ways. The side facing the Kaaba on the globe is such that all directions lead to it 360 degrees. As you can see, the night covers only Australia and Antarctica, and this is not possible on the ball. As you can see, this cannot be applied to the globe because one half of the globe must be dark and the other half daytime. As you can see, if Asia and Africa appeared together, they would occupy half the area of the globe. So how would the Americas appear? Finally, I would like to clarify that there is no gravity and no spherical Earth. The Earth is fixed, and we are on it because of density. Density is the controller of whether you stay on the ground or fly. I would like to clarify that if you climb the stairs, you feel tired because you are resisting density, and vice versa. If you heat a bottle and put a ball on its mouth, you will see the ball rise and fall again because the density of the air, when exposed to heat, decreased. Therefore, it forced the ball to rise in order to rise to the place that suits its density. If we assume the impossible, that there is space, and you push a body with a motive force towards it, what happens? First, if this body has pressure, it will explode immediately. Just as the submarine exploded underwater, any compressed body explodes in a vacuum. Second, the mass of this body in a vacuum is the highest density possible because it is in a vacuum. As I learned, when the air is heated in the bottle, it forces the ball to rise, meaning that it generates a motive force towards its path and the appropriate medium. A falling force will be generated at a high speed towards the ground, and it will fall immediately. How does a helium balloon fly? Its density is less than air. How does a balloon fly? When the air is heated, its density decreases and it rises. How does an airplane fly? The mass is exposed to a larger amount of air by moving the airplane at high speed, so the air mass is larger and thus the air density increases. At this time, the air density is higher than the density of the airplane, so it rises. What if its speed decreases after rising? Its density will increase and it will fall. How does a ship float on water? Density increases the area of the diver, so it is exposed to a large area of water, so the density of the water is higher than the density of the ship. When Archimedes invented the law of buoyancy, the wheel of gravity did not exist at the time, and the law was working efficiently. There is no speed of light. Sound has a speed, but light is instantaneous. Evidence of this is that you see the farthest object in the blink of an eye. If the star is millions of light years away, if you close your eye and open it, it is directed towards the star, you will see it, and you see a beam from beginning to end, you will say, this is a reflection. I say reflection is the speed of light. There is a lot of fabrication in things. Light years were invented so that the spherical theory would succeed. But what is built on falsehood is false. If you use your mind, you will see everything simply and clearly. The matter is not as complicated as you think. Thank you for listening. With my sincere regards, Jalal Abu Kamar,